happy Pride! Welcome back to Life on the Fringe. Today we are going to be talking about Pride, specifically bisexuality. So if you don't know already, I identify as a cisgender bisexual woman. And so today I thought I would talk about it. Specifically, I wanted to answer some of the most offensive questions that bisexuals get asked once and for all. Tired of answering them in person, I'll just refer them to this video. First, I thought I would share a fun fact. So, I'm wearing my rainbow sweatshirt. Look at this, wow. I'm a rainbow. And it got me thinking, why is the rainbow the symbol for, like, gay pride? And so I looked it up, and according to Britannica, it is because... So it goes back to 1978, when artist Gilbert Baker, an openly gay man and drag queen, designed the first rainbow flag. Baker revealed that he was urged to design a symbol of pride by Harvey Milk, one of the first openly gay elected officials in the U.S., and he decided to make the symbol a flag because he saw flags as the most powerful symbol of pride. You know, a country's flag, is a demonstration of its pride, so he wanted the symbol of pride for the LGBT community to be a flag. And Baker saw the rainbow as a kind of like natural flag, like in the universe, like a natural flag from the sky. So that's why he picked the rainbow. Originally, the pride flag had 8 colors, including a hot pink and a turquoise. Hot pink stood for sex, and turquoise stood for art. But because it was so hard to print back in the day, they went with the standard 6-color rainbow that we have now. And that's the story of the pride flag. So I thought that was really interesting, and I thought, let's start with a fun fact before we get into some not so fun questions. So what I did was I typed in questions not to ask bisexual people, and I threw that into Google and saw what it, tossed back. So the first article I saw is from bi.org. 10 questions you should never ask a bi. Number 1, how do you know? And I'm going to be linking all these in the description. My response to this is always, well, how do you know? Like, it's usually a straight person, so I usually say, well, how do you know you're straight? And they kind of are like, well, if they've, been with a partner, they'll say something like that. And if they haven't, they kind of just, ruffle their feathers a little bit. But if they have been with a partner, and there was a while where I had not been with a woman or a person of another gender besides men for a while. And so they'd be like, well, how do you know? You haven't even tried it. And it's like, I'm pretty sure you knew. I mean, did you not know you were straight until you were with someone of the same sex? Or when was the first time you had a crush? Like, did it take you all the way till you slept with someone? I don't know. Like, to me, this is just like, I know who I've had crushes on. Therefore, piecing it together, they haven't all been men. Therefore, I'm bi. Is kind of how I went through it. But I do think that simplifying answer that we give to people who are asking out of, like, malicious intent doesn't really get to the heart of the question, because I do think a lot of people question their sexuality, and I think that a deeper answer to that for me, from my experience, is slowly over time, I realized that I had crushes on people that were not men, specifically a few women that I was attracted to. And I was raised I was raised Catholic, so I didn't think it was an option. I didn't even know the term bisexuality existed when I was growing up. So it was really hard for me to know what my sexuality was. I didn't know, I knew I wasn't straight, but I also knew I wasn't gay. And so I didn't know what I was. And once I heard the term, I was like, that. It was like a light bulb going off in my head, and I was like, bisexual. That is what I've been. And then looking back, as far back as I can remember, I have created bisexual identities around me. So when I was young, I used to play with Barbies, but I reflected myself in the Barbie characters that I played. The ones that I played with were bisexual. The ones that, one of my sisters is straight. The one that she played was straight. Even when we were little. And kind of stuff like that, over time, provided evidence that I knew for a long time. But I didn't use the term until my senior year of high school, because that's the first time that I had heard it. So it is a process, and it's okay if you don't know. It takes time to figure out your sexuality. Okay, I promise I won't take this long on all the questions. 2, are you sure this isn't just a phase? Yeah. So bisexuality is not a phase. People either say it's a phase because they're like, oh, you're in college, you're having fun, you're experimenting, but you'll eventually marry a guy and settle down or whatever. Or it's a stepping stone to being gay. It's one of those two. And this in particular is really hurtful to me. I am married to a guy, and we're getting married in the church coming up in less than 2 weeks. And just because I'm marrying a man doesn't mean I'm not attracted to women anymore. In the same way that just because I'm marrying Stan, it doesn't mean that I'll never find another man attractive. You don't just lose attraction to every other person besides the person you're married to or dating. So I don't get that. But I do think that the reason people have this question and this question persists is because sometimes people will think that they're bi, and then maybe realize that they aren't. But that doesn't mean that bisexuality is a phase. It means they were figuring themselves out and they realized, you know what, no, I'm not bisexual. I'm straight, or I'm gay, or whatever. Bisexual people, are bisexual for life. But it's actually common. People might first identify as straight or gay, and then later in life realize they're actually bi. And I think that's sort of the case for me. Not that I ever said I was straight, because as straight, when I was straight in the eyes of society, I never had to say my sexuality. But yeah, I think as people get older, they become more familiar with the term, they have more experience, and then they identify as bi. So, next question. Are you more into men or women? Is it like a 50-50 split? So I don't know why this is necessarily offensive or like why you shouldn't ask, except that like it's not your business. But if you're like friends with someone, you know, and you're doing it in a curious way, to learn more, I think it's fine, as long as you know that it's a very personal question. Like if you're not close with the person and you wouldn't feel comfortable like them asking you like something like, well, how straight are you? Like in a scenario, would you know, like it's a spectrum. Where do you fall on that spectrum? If you're not comfortable with them asking you, don't ask them. Would be kind of a rule of thumb. Because it is a spectrum and it fluctuates for a lot of people. For me, I know it fluctuates. Like there are times where I'm more attracted to women than I am to men, and vice versa, or attracted to, you know, there's, you know, other genders. It's just a silly question, but at the same time, like, I've had conversations with some of my bi friends, and we've talked about, like, where we kind of fall, and so it's not to me, like, this big offensive question. It's just, like, it's a conversation you have with close friends, with the knowledge that just because you're asking a bi person does not mean they represent all bi people. And that's why I'm trying really hard to only speak from my personal experience. I'm hoping to have guests. I've got a few confirmed to appear this month to talk about their experiences so that this can be more representative. But I thought I would start with me, except I'm going to put other people on the spot. I'm going to answer some questions for myself first. The fourth question is, are you going to marry a man or a woman? Yeah, I just feel like that's a stupid question. Like, how do you know who you're going to fall in love with? Like, I didn't know if I was going to marry a man, a woman, or someone who's non-binary or someone who's gender fluid until, like, I found Stan and fell in love, and then I was like, oh, I want to marry this person. I'm attracted to this person. I love this person. You know, their gender is not a factor for me in terms of if I'm going to marry them or not. Have you slept with both a man and a woman? How could you know you're bi if you haven't? This one bothers me to no end. How do you know if you're straight before you sleep with someone? Because you like people. You're attracted to people. That's how. So it's a dumb question, and it is offensive. And conversely, how do you know you're straight if you haven't slept with other genders? Maybe you are attracted to multiple genders, but you don't know because you haven't slept with them. I mean, that's the same logic, right? Like say a woman asked me that, who's heterosexual, like, how do you know you're not a bisexual woman? Have you slept with a woman before? You know? And if they haven't, it's like, oh, well, maybe, like, should I suggest you try it? Because maybe you don't know. Like, that's silly. But like, for me, I've been attracted to both, therefore I know I'm bi. But I got this question a lot before I had slept with a woman, and it was so invalidating of like my experiences and all of the crushes I had and all of the hiding of my identity I had to do in like a homophobic area. And it was just like, screw you, you know? Like, also, like, where I grew up, no one was out because it was so scary to be out where I live. You know, people would just get mercilessly picked on. So no one was out. So, like, where were my options before college? There were none. So this is one that really, like, bothers me. How can you be monogamous? if you're bisexual, first of all, they have nothing to do with each other. You could be straight, you could be gay, lesbian, fluid, bisexual, pansexual, whatever your sexual orientation is, and either be monogamous, open, swinging, polyamorous. Like, your sexual orientation does not affect, like, your relationship style preference at all. Going back to what I said earlier, just because you're attracted to, like, all genders, like I'm attracted to all genders, does not mean that I need to act on that attraction, or that I'm gonna sleep around with everyone. Also, I'm not attracted to everyone, but all genders. In the same way, like, Stan, who is straight, still likes other women. It's not like he doesn't like other women or find them attractive. You just choose to, like, have a monogamous relationship, or you choose not to with your partner. And that is a separate discussion from your sexuality. It's not that it can't involve your sexuality. Like, if you're open because you want to explore your bisexuality and your partner's fine with it, like, that's fine. But just because you're bi does not mean you cannot have a fulfilling monogamous relationship. So, I've had them, and I've never cheated. None of the people I've been with have cheated. So I know firsthand that it is possible to have a monogamous relationship as a bisexual person. So I wanted to end this sort of internet Q&A with some questions from bi.org that I thought were kind of more thought-provoking. So one of them was, if I'm married and monogamous, why does it matter that I'm bi? They answered, quote, the Klein sexual orientation grid, for example, seeks to address the broadness of a person's sexuality by breaking it down into sexual attraction, sexual behavior, sexual fantasies, emotional preference, social preference, lifestyle preference, and self-identification. While a monogamous marriage would strictly limit a person's current sexual behavior, it would not affect a person's attractions, fantasies, emotional preferences, social preferences, lifestyle preference, nor would it have to change a person's self-identification. In this example, out of 7 measures of sexuality, only 1 would necessarily be affected by a monogamous marriage, end quote. And I thought this was a really good answer. I think another is, for me, being able to advocate as a bisexual rather than as an ally. It's more useful to talk about my experiences. Identifying as bisexual in a marriage, like, allows me to recognize my past, reflect on my past, talk about my past, and not in a way that it was a phase, because it wasn't. And all the things they mentioned, and then also, it comes up more than you think it would, like celebrity crushes, activities you did in college, like I went to a gay prom, that I, could talk about if we were talking about proms. Anytime you have a conversation and you're talking about, like, boyfriends or girlfriends or partners, do you just pretend the past didn't happen because you're married? Like, I don't know. I don't. So, one of them was, is bisexuality complicated? I think it's complicated. Like, it's definitely complicated because it's different, and people like people to like be one thing and to fit neatly into boxes, and that's difficult. And but on the other hand, I also think that the name is confusing, which because bi seems to like reinforce this two gender thing, because bi means like two or both, but it's actually imposing that definition, because homosexuality doesn't actually it's referring to not men and women, but heterosexual and homosexual behavior. And homosexual behavior includes behavior with like not just like in my case men, but it would also include people who are like non-binary, gender fluid, agender. Like it includes everybody that isn't a woman. You know what I mean? So it basically means everybody. But it has this like connotation, like this negative connotation with the LGBTQ community, because it could be perceived as transphobic. Transphobic in the sense of like trans people who are non-binary or gender fluid or agender. But it's important to remember that the two it's referring to is heterosexual behavior and homosexual behavior, and homosexual behavior is sexual behavior with anybody that is not the same gender as you. So, and then statements kind of like, is everyone bi? Like deep down. And well, I definitely think that sexuality can fall on a spectrum, and maybe and people can be bi-curious. I think that when it's like everybody's bi, it's kind of erasing the experiences of what people who identify bisexual experience, because they aren't facing the discrimination or the taunts or the pressure from their church or the comments about, well, you're bi, so you can choose to date a guy, and be and fall in the eyes of, and be good in the eyes of God. Why wouldn't you just choose that? And it's like, you don't choose who you love. You do not choose who you fall in love with. So I don't have a choice. And then the last question is, why do people need to come out? Bi people need to come out in the first place? Can't they keep their sex lives to themselves? So to me, the reason I came out, it was to be honest with the people in my life. I was out at school. I was interested in dating like multiple genders, so it wasn't like I could be in the closet. I also wanted to find a community that would support me as I explored that side of myself. And when I came home, it just felt I was like lying about my college experience. Not that I was like talking about who I brought home or anything, but just activities or clubs that I was involved in, honor societies and scholarships I was a part of. And again, the advocacy part. And I also think that coming out is important. I made a video about the importance of bi visibility, and I'll go ahead and link that up here. If you're interested of more of the reasons why I personally came out, and if you're interested about coming out speech and the implications that has for like the progress and advancement of LGBTQ plus issues, I covered it in my Free Speech Friday live stream the other day, so I will also link that up here. So yeah, this is the first in a series I'm gonna do. I'm also collecting questions from like my family about, you know, questions to ask me about my bisexuality. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. No question is too stupid or too ignorant. I'm not going to take it that way, so just put it below and I will answer it in another episode. I also have confirmed that we have another bisexual woman coming on to be interviewed. We also have a trans man coming on, and potentially a couple more people. So you can leave those questions in the comments down below as well. If you found this video informative, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my content, click subscribe and ding the bell button to know when we post, which is every day. But most importantly, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!